devotional for today is called Happiness in Life Under the Sun. Solomon was an old king. He had been the wisest man. The kingdom of Israel extended all the way from the river Euphrates all the way to the west in the Mediterranean. He had it all. He built the temple, something his father David wanted to do. But in the end, through a lot of bad decisions he made, he basically left a broken kingdom. You would have a northern kingdom of the 10 northern tribes and a southern kingdom of the 2 southern tribes. A disaster. Solomon recognized that. And at the end of his life, he wrote the book of Ecclesiastes. This is one from an old man who had it all, who lost it, but I think at the end of his life gets a lot of it back, because he looks at what is true happiness in life under the sun. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 12 through 13. I know that there is nothing better for them than to rejoice and to do good in one's lifetime. Moreover, that every man who eats and drinks sees good in all his labor. It is the gift of God. So one of the joys and satisfactions we can have, even in life under the sun, here in this fallen, evil world, is to enjoy the fruits of one's labor. It's much better than what he talks about in chapter 4, verse 6. One hand full of rest is better than 2 fists full of labor and striving after the wind. Better a handful with quietness, being satisfied with what you have, than maybe looking across the street at your neighbor and see all the extra toys they have. And then you begin grasping for the wind. I'll never forget, this might have been 20 years ago, and I should have written this down because the commercial was so appalling. You had a man, he was an engineer, and he was a guy they would fly out, let's say like to oil rigs, out in the ocean. I mean, he is a very valuable person. I mean, this commercial makes that quite clear. He's very valuable. He has a family. And so you can see, he picks up the phone. Yes, I'll be there. The next thing, he's out on some rig out in the middle of the ocean. Thanks for coming. You're the only guy that can do this. He gets a call another time. Yes, thank you so much. You came here, in a split second. But it's clearly the day of his little boy's birthday party. And he says to his son, I will be here. They sit down at the birthday party. The phone rings. He looks at it. It rings again. Then the scene cuts. There he's out on an oil rig with the guy saying, man, thanks for coming at the last second. And that's basically how it ends. I cannot remember what atrocious company this was. It didn't run that often. But I thought, what are you saying here? That going out on an oil rig, to help on an immediate problem, could not wait an extra day so you could be home for your little boy's birthday, who clearly doesn't see you hardly at all. Yes, he has wealth. I'm sure he has all the toys the parent gives him to alleviate his guilt. But he doesn't have love. He doesn't give his son love or time. And that's the most important. This is someone grasping after the wind, never satisfied. Kind of like Doug Batchelor, if you ever heard him talk about his dad who owned an airline. He couldn't make more money than he had. But he said, my dad cannot relax. It's not in his DNA. He's going to work, and he's going to keel over in his office because he cannot relax. It's always the striving to get more, to get more, to get more. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10 says, "He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves abundance with its income. This too is vanity." There's a very good illustration about this type of mentality, particularly about greed. This is a story that takes place out in Kansas. Not far from Lincoln, Kansas, a strange group of tombstones stand in an old graveyard. This is from Larry Lichtenwalder's book, Well-Driven Nails, his excellent study on Ecclesiastes. A farmer and self-made man named John Davis erected them. Davis started out as a lowly hired hand, and by sheer determination and frugality, managed to amass a considerable fortune in his lifetime. In the process, however, the Midwestern farmer did not make many friends. When his wife died, Davis erected an elaborate statue in her memory. He hired a sculptor to carve a monument that showed them both sitting together on a love seat. He was so pleased with the result that he commissioned another statue, this time depicting himself kneeling at her grave, placing a wreath on it. That impressed him so greatly that he had a third monument made. It depicted his wife kneeling at his future gravesite and also placing a wreath. Since she was no longer alive, he had a pair of wings added to her back, giving her the appearance of an angel. One idea led to another, until he'd spent nearly $250,000 on the monuments to himself and his late wife. Whenever someone from town would suggest he might help with a community project, such as a hospital, a park, and swimming pool for children, or a municipal building, the old miser would frown, set his jaw, and shout back, "What's this town ever done for me? I don't owe this town nothing." Through the years, Davis used up all of his money on stone statues and other selfish pursuits. Finally, he died at the age of 92, a grim-faced resident of the poorhouse. But his monuments, strangely, they are sinking slowly into the Kansas soil, fast becoming victims of time, vandalism, and neglect. Sad reminders of a self-centered, unsympathetic life. In the course of time, they too will be gone. Oh, by the way, few people attended John Davis's funeral. It is reported that only one person seemed genuinely moved by any sense of personal loss. Who would that be? Oh, it was Horace England, the tombstone salesman. He shed many a tear. What does this tell us? What does this tell us? True happiness under the sun. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 18. "Here is what I have seen to be good and fitting: to eat, to drink, and enjoy oneself in all one's labor in which he toils under the sun during the few years of his life which God has given him, for this is his reward." So this is for us to think about as I close. The joy of to eat and drink. Enjoy the good of all the labor in which we toil under the sun. Importance of life's simple pleasures. Heidi and I used to have a Sabbath night tradition when we were in seminary. She would make her marvelous Heidi nachos with blue chips and cheese and wonderful vegetables. It's still my favorite dessert of all. And we still do that occasionally. The simple things in life are the things that we appreciate the most. Our families, our loved ones, our churches, and most of all, having Jesus at the center of our life. If we do that, even life under the sun, while hard, can still be pleasant and be a wonderful preparation for our life above the sun with Him for eternity. God bless you, and may you have a wonderful day.